Hi everyone. Today's blog post is going to be around making a workflow a little bit smarter in regards to assigning tasks to users. Now, in most situations, what you're looking at is a workflow that has a flexi task action, something like this, and you assign the task to a particular user, and they have an amount of time to actually respond to that task. With an in-text workflow flexi task action, you do have something like reminders where you can specify, I want to have say 5 reminders every day, and you can do something like that. And then if they still haven't responded, you can decide that there'll be an escalation due to that, and you can specify delegate task and say that I want to delegate this task to somebody else because they haven't responded in time. Now, what this post is going to be about is trying to make the workflow create tasks for users that are actually available to respond to those tasks. So what we'll start off with is a SharePoint list called approvers. This is just an approver field, which is just a people or group field. And I've got 4 people. So these are basically my approvers that I could potentially assign tasks to. Now we're going to have 2 different types of workflows. Here's my SharePoint list. This is where I'm going to build my workflow. And the first workflow we have is called the approval based on user status. So what you can see is we're actually doing a query list. So we're actually going to be querying the approval list, this one over here, and get all these users back. We're then using the for each action to iterate through each one of those users. And here is a little known user action for an in-text workflow called the get user status. This actually uses the OCS, Office Communication Server, or link presence to figure out the status of a particular user. So yes, this is more suited for an environment that has link or Office Communication Server installed, and this is what users use to communicate or to chat. After getting the user status, we're doing a run if, so we're actually going to check whether the result that we've gotten back from the status is available. So if I open this up, you'll actually see we're just checking a text variable for the value available. And if it is available, we're going to set a particular variable telling the for each action to actually stop processing because we've found their available user. Now that we know that user is actually available, we can assign a task to them. That way we know that rather than assigning a task to just a random user or a bunch of users, you can actually have a look and say, in my list of users, tell me the first user that is actually available, which usually means they're sitting at their computer right now, and we're going to assign a task to them. So pretty straightforward. It's just a slightly different way of thinking about just assigning tasks and waiting for people and then automatically delegating to now let's just assign a particular task to a user that we know is actually sitting at their desk right now. And that should hopefully get them to respond to that task or complete that task faster, thereby improving our whole business process. Now, another way to do this is to go a little bit further. This workflow here, I've called the advanced approval based on user status. Again, we're still doing the query list action to find out all the approvers we have in our list. We also have a for each, just as we did before, where we're iterating through each of the approvers. We're still getting the get user status. So you see most of this is all the same. The difference is I've added this extra little bit of logic with the run parallel actions, where you have 2 branches of workflow logic running at the same time. What we're actually checking is to see if the user that we're looking at right now in our for each action is currently available, then we're actually going to store that in a variable called text approver. On the other branch, we're actually also checking if that user is away. And if they're away, we're storing in another variable called text next approver. So what will happen is this will actually go through our list of approvers and store 2 users, an available user, or the first available user, and the first away user. Finally, at the very bottom, we actually do a quick check to see if we have a value in the text approver and we have a value in the text next approver. And if that is the case, then we're going to tell the for each action to stop processing, and we can jump out of that. And we finally get to our flexi task action. Now here is where we're doing a little bit more processing here. We've got the text approver. That's the person who's actually available. We know that they're online. Hopefully they'll be able to get this and they'll respond very quickly. I haven't bothered with any reminders because this is going to be a very quick process, but I have gotten into the escalation part. So what we're saying is, if after 10 minutes, the text approver or the person who's available hasn't responded, I'm going to automatically delegate this task off to the next approver, and that's actually the person who's away. Now, away usually just means that the user is just not at their desk at the moment, but they are actually online. So they're in the office, they're just not at their desk. So this is hopefully going to get the first person to try to approve that they are at their desk. If they don't approve, 10 minutes later, we're going to notify the text next approver, and hopefully they're back at their desk by that time, and then they can respond to it. So it's just a slightly different way of thinking, but hopefully with this sort of processing and actually taking into account the fact that we can figure out whether a user is actually at their desk or not, this will actually improve our business process. Because really what it comes down to when you're building workflows is you're trying to automate a business process and improve the overall performance, and thereby just improving your business. So again, just thinking of this slightly different way rather than just having tasks assigned to people, we're actually going to see if they're online, and if they are, we're going to assign to those. You can take this to a different level. You can start looking at all the available users and then just assign a task to all those users rather than just to the first one. That might be an option. That way, if you're down here and instead of just having text approver, you have a collection of users who are actually online or who are available. And then all you have to do is have first response applies. So that's another way. So you're actually, rather than assigning it to a bunch of people, you're only assigning it to the people who really are online and can respond to the task quickly. The reason why I actually didn't do this and I only assigned it to the one user, because in my particular example, what I really wanted was only one person to get notified, rather than if you send out a whole bunch of notifications saying, go please respond to this task. When one user responds, because of this first response applies, all the other users will start getting emails saying your response is no longer required. So I didn't want those sort of emails to go out. So I just decided to do one at a time. So hopefully this kind of opens your eyes a little bit to other ways of processing with Nintex Workflow, other ways of assigning tasks, and hopefully improving your entire business process. Feel free to leave any comments at the end. I'll actually export these workflows and make them available in the download section of this blog post. Thanks very much for watching this and reading the blog.